Hello everyone and welcome to My Deck Tech. I'll be playing Green Blue Devotion today, a deck that I've been pretty happy about ever since I've seen Court of Calling. So let's just get into it and start talking about the sweet things. First off, it looks very much like any of the other green-based Devotion decks. You've got Elvish Mystics, 7 Caryatids, Voyaging Satyrs, Burning Emissaries, and some Coursers and Pelucranoses.
Yeah, I mean, like, pretty much like every green Devotion deck that I've ever seen, you curve Elvish Mystic into Aetherling. It's just really the classic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, we're actually not going to be casting Aetherling many times in this deck. It's never going to be on the stack, actually. We're going to protect it with 4 Court of Callings.
Oh.
And the idea about this deck is, yes, it is a Nykthos-based deck without a lot of things to do with Nykthos. You have your Pelucranoses and your Nyleas, and that's about it.
You can activate Nykthos and pump Aetherling 4 times.
That is true.
Yep.
Potentially more with that combo.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to do is, instead of being based around all of the Planeswalkers, even though we got another Planeswalker for Mono Green Devotion, what I want to do is kind of hedge and be a Nykthos deck, but not run all 4 because sometimes you just get clumped on them and your mana base is awkward. But go for a Court of Calling deck that has a backup of Nykthosing. And how we're going to be doing that is getting a bunch of early creatures into play, so Burning Emissary can help out with your Nykthos, but also when you have Prophet, you can just play a Prophet, and once you have 9 resources, and that's what I've been saying with Convoke, at least on the set reviews, is when you have 9 resources in play that can produce mana through Convoking, you can go get an Aetherling. And so if you ever have 3 to 4 lands and Prophet along with 2 to 3 permanents, you can just play a Prophet, and if you get to untap 9 resources, you're able to just cord that turn for an Aetherling. And I think that is going to be one of the most powerful things this deck can do. And if that's not the case, like if that's not going to win you the game, you can still just go get a Pelucranos. But right when a new set comes out, a lot of decks are going to be leaning towards doing cool stuff, or at least the other core decks are going to be trying to do really cool things. Whereas, like, we're going to exploit that by still being a Pelucranos deck that has Nykthos, but alongside is just getting a quick Aetherling and just racing it with this, because I don't really care what they're doing. If they're trying to Garruk or Nylea, it doesn't matter. Or not Nylea. What's the new Planeswalker?
Nissa.
Nissa, yeah.
Yep.
Nissa. Too many legendary ends in green. They're just clashing right now. But you're just able to attack them multiple times with Aetherling. Hopefully that's enough to be lethal. But the other thing is a lot of these permanent-based decks are going to get blown out by the Cyclonic Rifts.
Yeah.
So we also have the ability to go tutor up Reclamation Sage, and that's my beautiful art. This is actually a Batterskull being torn from your body.
Wow. Well,
yeah, that is you right there. It's some X's and some big head, because you really do have a big head. Well, that's not literally big head. It's mostly your ego.
Okay.
Like we're not, just literal with this art. It's
that's a pretty humiliating picture, which means that humility is in play, and that I survive as a 1/1, even having the Batterskull ripped
all right.
from me.
Well, and if humility is in play, we will be able to draw 2 cards with this.
Well, the ability won't trigger. So
never mind. I don't know how humility works. Never played with it. But yeah, these are our other tutor targets. We're able to court up a Nylea's Disciple, Prime Speaker Zagana when we want to draw a bunch of cards, or a Sage. And only running 1 Nylea actually helps out. And like the thing is Garruk is there to get to your big things, but you don't really need that many big things when they're just all in chord. So every time you draw a chord and it resolves, it's going to be better than a Garruk, just by being able to do all those cool things. And like, I don't really want anything that's too flashy. I don't want to destroy a Planeswalker with a Sylvan Primordial, because if I ever have 7 or 10 sources to Court of Calling for, I just want to get an Aetherling with a blue up and just kill them with it. And maybe that's not going to really kill people, or be enough in every single situation, but I'm assuming it will.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the fact that this deck's not like one issue with Court of Calling, and this is also an issue with like pod decks in the past and things like that, is playing too many tutor targets.
Yeah.
Because you can definitely run into the danger of having too many cool things, where your hands are just bad because you draw your cool things and they're not cool in the matchup you're playing. Whereas here, like there's only like 4 things to search for that are outside the norm, or I guess 5. But like a lot of these are fine on their own, and yeah, you're not going to get draws that are clumped with like 2 Reclamation Sages and like a Reverent Hunter and like World Spine Worm and whatever in your opening hand.
Stuff, and like this deck has enough blue sources to just like slam an Aetherling too, and like a green-based Devotion deck that has enough blue sources now with Yavimaya Coast getting this guy's good. Oh, and by the way, if you guys are wondering about mana base, it is correct to go 3 white bordered Yavimikos and 1 black bordered.
I was going to ask about that. In fact,
Yes.
I actually approve of that.
Yes.
My only thing I don't approve on is, are these all the same 9th edition version?
They are.
Well, you probably
That is wrong, yes.
you need one 10th edition version.
Oh.
Just to make it even worse.
See, that's why we got BBD.
Yep. I'm a mana base expert.
Yes, he is a mana base expert. We'll get to the sideboard real quick, and then we'll go to battle. So let's just rattle off all the other Court of Calling targets. We have Reclamation Sage, Scavenging Ooze, a second Aetherling to be good against the mono black decks that can Thoughtseize. So it's kind of like the Elixir of Immortality Sphinx's Revelation decks that sometimes you just like, they have that elixir in their hand, and you're like, well, I guess I just have to like try to kill the one other threat they have, which could be an Elspeth. And that's pretty easy to kill, and so if you ever get the elixir, you just win. So you want to have a second Aetherling, especially since a green deck with a bunch of Court of Callings, making sure that you have an Aetherling in your deck to always go get is just going to win the game almost every time.
And naturally drawing it sometimes probably isn't the worst.
Yeah. An Arbor Clause is to help out against any of the other like Jund monster decks where you will have to interact with like a Stormbreath Dragon, or just being able to deal with a big flyer. And it's just a good body too. It's just a big monster against other green-based decks.
Provides a lot of devotion too.
Yep. Finishing off the 4 Nylea's Disciples, because a deck like this is going to constantly want this, and against anything going burn or aggressive, having 4 Chords, 4 Nylea's Disciples is all you really need. You don't really need to do anything else. But we do have the 4th Courser because I didn't know what else to put in my sideboard. When we do some of these versus videos, and I already know what matchup we want to play, sometimes I just add cards like the 1 Biden. I don't know if that's the right number, and the 2 Garrix, but these are the cards that I would want in my sideboard to complement my strategy when I don't think Court is going to be that great.
Yep.
So against control decks, I do just want more fatty boom booms, and a Biden doesn't seem that bad in a deck like this, especially against like a control deck, because they're not going to be playing towards having to deal with cards like Biden. So maybe even more of this card could be good in this deck now that we have access to a total of 16 blue sources that also produce green, so we don't have to play a ton of islands that just screw up our Burning Emissary draws. And I'm not going to do any of that cute play Steam Vents. Like, that ain't happening. I'm not doing any of that with this deck.
Nah, it seems bad.
Yeah. But, 4 Mistcutters because I hate losing to Mono Blue Devotion.
I like that because I also hate losing to Mono Blue Devotion.
And it's a great chord target.
It is.
You only need 4 resources to get a Mistcutter into play.
Yeah, I mean, that is real strong. It'll go to your graveyard, but that's fine.
It's just the fear, right? We're putting the fear into them.
Yeah, you want Mono Blue to know, I have this card in my deck.
Yeah.
Just so they play around it.
So then you can complain about not top decking it later on when you lose.
Right, you're like, man, I had a 3-outer Mistcutter, and they'll say like, well, if you didn't chord for it, you could have had a 4-outer. And then
you flash your deck. You're like, no, I had a 3-outer.
Yeah.
I played all 4 against you.
Yep.
Anyway, we're just saving time because this is a mono red matchup with Tom Ross Sly, and if anyone watched the Invitational, if you blinked, you didn't watch it. See what I did there? Bad joke. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy the video as much as you did these deck techs, because this is my favorite part so far.
And if you didn't enjoy the deck text, then I hope you enjoy the video.
Yes.